Hello, welcome back. Welcome to Let's Talk NBA with Rick and Jack. As you can see, I'm Rick. You know that. Jack is not with us. He's off opening another restaurant for Island Fin Tuna out in Washington. That's really a great company that he's working for. It's doing well, and I understood that he had to be away. But I was so fortunate to, I asked a friend of mine, Dexter Talbert. I asked him he's from FanWagon, which is a sports betting app, which is worldwide, 50 states, a great sports app. I asked Dexter to be my guest, and we're going to talk some NBA. You know how I love my NBA and NBA shows. So, Dexter, welcome.
What's going on?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, feeling good. I'm in Houston, so it's sunny
Houston
right
with
now.
the
No
Rockets.
snow.
What you think since Mr. Harden was, what shall we say, unceremoniously asked to leave, and they're 7-4 since he left. So, tell me a little bit. Tell our audience a little bit about Houston. Dexter knows all sports.
Well, the thing, it was a good thing for James Harden. It was good for him. Obviously, what was going on in Houston, he didn't feel comfortable playing here anymore for whatever reason. He said it was he didn't feel like it was going anywhere, so he didn't think that the team could get to a point to where I guess he wanted to get to a championship. He didn't say that, but I assume that's what he was hinting towards. So for him, I guess that's good. He wanted to get out and try something new. More power to him. So they traded him away. I honestly believe that if he had stayed and been happy, these new additions with John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, who's doing
playing good
good
ball off of
He's
all
playing
those
good
injuries.
ball. We have who's that new guy? Wood. We got Wood.
Christian Woods is, that guy was bounced around in D-League and NBA teams, and nobody kept him. And I guess he really just put the time in over the COVID time in the summer. And that kid is a different ball player. He has been a real advantage to that team, and much respect to that kid.
Yeah, and I like his work ethic. I like what I'm seeing on the court. I thought this would have been the perfect team to complement James Harden. And for a long time, I criticized the Rockets for the coaching changes that they made over the last 5-6 years. I criticized them for everything.
Yeah.
And I think the best fit that we had was when we had Chris Paul and James Harden on the same team.
Yeah.
And the reason why was I thought that Mike D'Antoni was not the right coach to get this team to a championship or to win a championship.
Yeah.
He was okay to get us to a point because we had a lot of talent. He's good at telling the talent to push the ball and shoot.
Yeah.
We had the talent to do that. So they did that, but that won't take you to a championship.
No.
Unless you just get lucky. So Chris Paul had the experience and the basketball know-how to run a team. So that helped. And
you're seeing that in Phoenix with Chris Paul.
Yeah, and you're seeing it at Phoenix.
It's a different team in Phoenix. I think their record is 11-8, something like that. They're never above 500. But I've been watching Chris facilitate and shoot over there in Phoenix. Chris Paul looks good. He looks like he's reborn. What is he, 36 years old?
36.
The guy's playing great basketball in Phoenix. I love it. So thanks for bringing up Chris Paul. I'm a fan.
Yeah. So that was where that was the peak of what we had in Houston, because he was able to fill those gaps that D'Antoni couldn't fill. If you noticed on timeouts, a lot of times D'Antoni wouldn't say much. Every now and then he would give him some advice, but he was more of a hands-off coach. He had a philosophy to say, this is how we're going to play the game, but he wasn't much of a motivator and didn't have a lot to add outside of his philosophy. Well, that's where Chris Paul he filled the gaps in right there. So that was the best team that we had. When he left, I knew it wouldn't get any better because you brought in Westbrook. Not to say Westbrook is a bad player, but that's a bad fit.
No, he's all over the place.
With Harden, that's a bad fit.
Russell's never going to win a championship.
If you want a championship,
yeah,
it's a bad fit. If you want to be entertaining, get you 50 wins in the season, you can do that with Westbrook and Harden.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to win a championship where you need team chemistry and they're playing a lot of half-court ball in the playoffs, it's just not going to happen.
Well, It's funny the
So
fact that you're a Houston fan, and I can see you're so passionate about Houston.
yeah,
That team there, the year with Chris Paul and Harden, they would have won the Western Conference and beating Golden State if Chris didn't get hurt. They
would
had
have
him on
beat
the
them.
ropes. They had the
Would have beat
answers,
them.
and
Would have
that
beat
was a
'em.
good team. Again, Chris Paul leadership, but this team this year, I know that they're working hard. I mean, Gordon's starting to play good ball. Wall's getting healthy, coming off of that Achilles. That's a good, hardworking team that I like. Wood, it helps them with the presence in the middle. So, they're not going to go far this year. I don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs. But let me ask you. Now Harden has gone to supposedly a championship team in Brooklyn with a couple of superstars. What do you think is going to happen with that team? What do you see watching them right now? And by the way, D'Antoni's assistant coach there. And, if Steve Nash is no NBA coach, he is not a Steve Kerr. I'm going to tell you that. He is not going to do what they've done in Golden State with an ex player. I've seen a lot of mistakes over there. I don't really like that team. I watch them against the Clippers tonight. Let's see what happens. I think the Clippers will blow them out.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't. The roster on paper looks great, but this team expectations are championship. Like when you add
Absolutely
a James Harden, you already have Kevin Durant and you have Kyrie Irving. We're not talking about seeing an entertaining team. No, we're talking about you better make it to championship and you better win. So when I see that, that expectation, as is, they can't do it. They'll get out coached by Doc Rivers. Miami would out coach them. Miami could they'll beat Miami with talent.
Yeah.
But I'm having a hard time seeing Kyrie Irving and James Harden make this work. Now James is going to be open to making it work because he just left Houston and he wants a championship. So
yeah, and he
clearly
well.
has laser vision.
He's playing well.
Yeah. Yeah, he's playing well. But you have Kyrie, who is like, it's tough, man. Kyrie wants to take at least 20, 25 shots a game. He wants to.
And Durant wants the ball.
And Durant deserves his. Like everybody knows, like you get the ball to Durant, and he's gonna make something happen. And when I look at this team, I can clearly see the 2012 Oklahoma City Thunder. I can see the talent there, and the only reason the Thunder even made it to the finals is because Harden was coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Had Harden been starting with Westbrook, I mean that's hard, man. Like it's only so much ball could go around.
Well,
it's only so much.
And that's the thing with that team. I mean, they're all shooters. You got Joe Harris. That people don't even know. If I know a true NBA fan when you ask them about Brooklyn and they say, "Have you seen that Joe Harris kid?" That kid is a great shooter. He hustles all the time. Doesn't play much defense. Nobody plays any defense on that team. That's the biggest problem. What they lose the other night to Washington, 149 to 146. That's an all-star game. That's not an NBA game with two good defenses. So I don't believe Brooklyn. And I heard Steve Nash in an interview before the game the other night. And he said, it's a well-known fact that we're not a good defensive team. And I thought to myself, why would you say that?
He's talking about himself.
Why would you say that?
He threw himself under the bus.
I see the problem in the East is very simple. You've got two teams that are better than them, without a doubt. Miami isn't playing great yet. They've been all over with COVID and injuries. And Miami, you can't even look at how they're playing right now because it's not good. They're just not. They're not cohesive. But when you look at Milwaukee, and you look at Philadelphia, those guys have bought off on Doc Rivers' game plans. They bought off on his philosophy. They're playing defense. Their ball's going through Embiid. They're playing great basketball. Simmons that kid glides. He's a facilitator. You got Harris, Tobias Harris, that is unbelievable player. They got a good team there. They play defense. And they're very capable. Milwaukee, if Middleton is playing well and Giannis does what he does normally, the difference maker for Milwaukee and the reason they may be the team in the East this year is that Holiday pickup. To get Drew Holiday was huge. So they have three legitimate stars, and then they got
who can put the ball in the
yeah,
basket.
yeah, and then they got the
They needed that.
DiVincenzo's and the other guys that come in there and the Lopez that are good role players. But you got those three stars, and then the same thing over in Philly. You got those three stars. So in the East, I think it's going to come down to Philadelphia and Milwaukee, and I believe in the end, Brooklyn's going to be a non-factor. Harden is not going to get his championship this year. They don't have enough presence down low. Their presence down low, what is it? Allen, they got nothing down low. So
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do it, and they're not as well coached as I like the way Philly's playing right now. And if they continue that way and keep the attitude and Embiid stays motivated, that's his problem. Injuries and motivation. He gets upset when he's not playing well, and then he tells the NBA he's the best in the league, and then everybody puts it in his face. Hopefully he's matured. But I like Philly. I like Philly as a team this year.
I like Philly too. I think what's working. So for the last 6-7 years, teams have been playing an up-tempo basketball, shooting a lot of threes. Not playing much defense, and I think after a little while, teams start seeing this is not the way that we can win. That's the way Golden State won the championship, but we can't necessarily do that to win. These are the players that we have assembled aren't capable of that. Ben Simmons isn't capable of shooting threes all night.
Right.
No, he's not. And if you look at Miami, they will shoot threes, but they will play good basketball too.
Good defense, well-coached team. Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the NBA.
Right.
And Jimmy Butler proved how good he is in the bubble.
Yes, he definitely did. And Doc knows this because Doc's been around the block for a lot. So if what I've noticed from Philadelphia is they're more patient, kind of like Miami was last year. Miami was patient and got to the finals. And so Philadelphia, if you look at their style of play, they're much more patient than they've been. They're not just jacking up silly shots.
Right.
When you watch them, it looks like, okay, these guys look like they have a plan here. And that's what I started seeing, especially with them going to Embiid a lot.
Right.
That's showing me that there's some strategy.
Yeah.
And, okay, we're going to go down low. Embiid's hard to stop or you're going to foul him. And it's been working well for them. And I think if they can stay injury free, I think they're the team to beat. And
I agree.
If we see the Nets beat them,
it won't happen.
Say the playoffs come.
Listen,
if they did, it would be only because somebody willed it to happen, like a Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
But it's far fetched to me. I think Philly is the team to beat in the East.
Philly told me a lot the other night when they beat the Lakers. That was a good game. They got challenged at the end. They had that game won, and they kind of fell apart in the last few seconds. That was kind of bad to allow some of the things that happened at the end. But they ended up coming right back. They hit, they gave the ball to Harris, and he hit that little mid-range jumper to win it. But that was a great game. That was truly two good basketball teams that wanted to win. So that told me a lot. And the point you make about Miami is a really legitimate point because they have everything it takes to be in the championship again. They've got Bam in the middle down below. Adebayo, he's unbelievable. They got the shooting from Duncan Robinson. They bring in, the guys like Hero and Dunn, a lot of good shooters. And then you got Jimmy Butler. That's a good, hardworking team. But do you think anybody can contend with the Lakers? Do you think the Lakers can be beat this year?
In the West,
excuse me.
Well, there was one team, and that's the Clippers, but they have one issue. They have a point guard problem. Paul George, I've never considered him to be the factor in whether they go anywhere or not. A lot of people got upset because last year's playoffs he didn't do what they thought he should do.
Yeah, that was crazy.
But I never thought he was the factor anyway.
Yeah.
I always thought. Because you can miss shots. I've watched games. Michael Jordan had bad shooting games. I've watched Kobe have bad shooting games. Matter of fact, Kobe in the finals had two bad. When the last fifth championship he won, those last two games, he didn't do well shooting wise. But they still won. They still won the championship. And so my whole point is, the Clippers they need a good facilitator. on that team. Ideally, somebody like Rondo. Now, Rondo won't end up over
He's
there.
still good. Well, you don't believe Beverly's the guy, or you don't believe Reggie Williams is the guy there? You don't think that they
No.
Reggie Williams is, he was really a good ball player at one time,
Hmm.
and he kind of has bounced around a little bit. Now he's over there with the Clippers, and he's playing really good ball all of a sudden. That kid was good in Detroit.
Yeah,
That kid was good in Detroit, and
he's playing good ball, and if he can keep, like, if they can keep that up, um, that to me that's the factor because when you look at not Kyrie, Kawhi,
yeah,
you look at Kawhi, and even Greg Popovich said this about Kawhi. People thought that he was hating on him or he was shooting shots at him, but he wasn't. But he said Kawhi's just not a leader, and he wasn't shooting shots at Kawhi. He was just saying this is not the type of guy that's going to drag these guys, by the back of the neck and say, "Hey, do this. Hey, do this." That's just not who Kawhi is.
yeah,
So the person on that team that is Patrick Beverly, and a little bit of Paul George. So during the game, Kawhi expects these guys to do what they know to do. He's not going to be yelling at them and
what
screaming
they're
at them.
supposed to do. Yeah,
Right. He's going to
Yeah.
expect them to do their job,
yeah,
and he's not going to scream at them and tell them to do it. He's going to expect them to do it, and that's okay. Some players are like that sometimes, and you have other leaders that will scream in your face, "Hey, do this." He's not that guy. So Patrick Beverly is that guy, and Paul George a little bit. But when they don't have a good game, nobody has confidence in them
yeah.
on the team. When the game doesn't go well, they don't want to hear what last year when they got kicked out the playoffs. Paul George tried to talk to him, and they didn't want to hear that from him.
Yeah, I think it's a
Because
different
they
team
haven't
now.
proven anything to them.
Yeah,
So they would rather hear that from Kawhi, because Kawhi has proven something to them.
right.
But Paul George hasn't proven anything to them. They respect him, but there's not enough of belief in him and in Patrick Beverly to rally behind them
Yeah,
if you're losing. Now, if you're winning, oh yeah, high fives, everything.
right.
But when you're losing, they're not going to those guys for that.
Yeah.
So what you need in that situation is you need somebody, a person on the floor who could fix a broken game,
Right.
which usually a good point guard. They don't have to be great. They don't have to be a superstar. A decent good point. Derek Fisher, he would do that for the Lakers. Things would get all messed up. He would slow things down. Mark Jackson, when he was on Indiana, and when he was on the Knicks, not a superstar, but he's that guy. Not even the captain, but he's that guy that could say, "All right, let me get the tempo flowing like it should be. Let me get the offense back going." They need a person like that, and they don't have that right now.
Yeah,
If they had that, I would believe they could beat the Lakers.
I
They
personally,
don't have that.
I agree with you on a lot of that, but I believe the Clippers learned a lot of lessons. They made a
Yeah.
necessary coaching change. Doc lost that locker room. I think they brought in enough players that are doing well. Zubats is starting to play great in the middle. That kid, it grows every year.
Big
All of a sudden,
dude.
Reggie Williams has come to life. Beverly's a good player. That I believe they have enough to win it all, and I believe they have enough to contend with the Lakers. And to me, the big difference this year is really the coaching. And I think that they're a championship caliber coach. I think that they're going to be there. And I also think Denver's going to be there. Denver, I mean, Jokovic, the Joker, I mean, he's killing it. What did he have? 47 the other night. That guy is improving every year. Again, a lot of these teams, they go as a certain player goes. The stars are established. The star is going to be a star. It's just like the Lakers go as Anthony Davis really goes. When Anthony Davis is engaged in physical and into the game, the Lakers are playing well. Just like last night, the ball's going through Anthony Davis. The guy's an incredible shooter for his size. It's the same thing in Denver. Denver goes as Murray goes.
Yeah.
You're going to get what you're going to get from the Joker. You're going to get from that center position in Denver what you're going to get. You're going to get from LeBron in LA what you're going to get. But those guys, that next player up is the difference. And that's the problem with the Clippers. You can't always count on Paul George to be that next guy up.
Right.
And in Denver, the same thing. You can't count on Murray to be the next guy up. They're inconsistent players. But one thing
Yeah.
is very consistent. With Anthony Davis, when his mind is on the game, and it is most of the time because LeBron holds him accountable, that team holds each other accountable. The Lakers are going to be
Hard
hard
to
to beat.
beat.
It's a third way. It's a third through. It's a third of the way through the season. The two top teams look like Philadelphia right now, and the Lakers. Again, Denver's in there. Clippers are in there, and Miami's going to be there in the end with something to say. In Milwaukee, Milwaukee might finally surprise us this year. But again, Milwaukee goes as Middleton goes. So that's
Right.
that number two guy leading into the number three guy is really it's really a pecking order in the NBA. The best player
It
is always
is.
going to be the best player, but now the second best player has got to accept that role and be great, and then that third best player has got to see the two guys in front of him step up his game, and then the rest of the team rallies, and that's the team that's going to win it this year. And I think that the Lakers are more capable than anybody of making that formula that I just explained happen, because that really is
Right.
the formula. And you got to have a
In
good
Brooklyn,
coach too. Pardon?
and that makes sense because Brooklyn, they're having trouble with that formula because they don't know who's number three.
They don't, and half the time number three's not playing. Harden didn't play last night. I mean, again, they'll all play tonight though, because they're all, this is a defining game, just like Philadelphia and the Lakers was. This is a defining game tonight. This Clipper Philly game, Clipper Brooklyn game. Don't miss it, because Brooklyn's good, but the Clippers, they're going to outscore them because Brooklyn doesn't play defense. So,
Yep.
you got to have your top three. And then it's got to be augmented by defense. If you don't have defense, forget it. But, NBA looks good. Are any of the rookies impressing you? Or is there anything that standing out for you and that you can tell our viewers that, to be watching for?
So I got two things. So Washington is the thing I've been paying attention to. Washington, the Wizards, and Melo, but I'll LaMelo Ball. But
Yeah.
I'll start on Washington. So I've said this for a long time about Russell Westbrook, and I love Russell Westbrook. Don't get me wrong. I love his intensity.
Hard
I
work.
love how crazy he is. Like I love it, But it's hard to coach. Like that's hard to have on a team. It's not easy to have to translate into wins. And I hope they figure that out. Bradley Beal is playing out of his mind.
Out of the universe.
I mean, the guy has some talent. So I hope that works. I don't think it is, but here's what I think could fix it. Westbrook has to have a certain type of coach to, if he's going to be a premier player on that team, he has to have a certain type of coach. And I don't know that coach is even in the NBA.
Yeah.
And to say that, and this isn't a knock on him. This is just saying that his playing style and what he's good at, the NBA has moved on from that.
Yeah.
If you had him in the early 2000s, back when we had Jason Kidd, Stephon Marbury, in the early 2000s, he would be perfect. You didn't need a point guard that could shoot well back then. Jason Kidd couldn't shoot well for a long time, and he led the Nets to two championships or two finals. They didn't win, but he led them to two finals. But with this in this era, I think the only coach that could turn him into a success would be Greg Popovich. If we're going to talk about somebody else, obviously Phil Jackson. You could get Avery Johnson.
Yeah.
You could get Mark Jackson. But you need someone who's very assertive and who's not afraid to lose their job, because it's going to be some shouting matches with Westbrook. It's not going to be easy. When he was in OKC, him and Mo Cheeks would, he was an assistant in OKC. He would have to pull Westbrook to the side a lot.
Yeah.
It's not easy to deal with a player of that type of player. He's more of an old school type of player, and that's harder to deal with than some of the newer guys.
Yeah.
So I think it would take the right coach. Now, I'm not saying they don't have a bad coach. They don't have a terrible coach.
No.
In Washington. But just if you're going to have Westbrook, you have to do things differently. If you have Westbrook and you want to be successful,
Yeah, I think
you just have to do things differently.
yeah, I think with Westbrook, Russ is always going to be Russ. He's always going to
Yeah,
play his style. He's always going to be in a position to play his style, and he's never going to win a championship. I think
right,
Russ is a
right.
great, hard-working player, great attitude, great intensity, in-your-face kind of guy. He is very, very talented. But Russ, I'm kind of surprised he won an MVP. He didn't win a
I
championship
was,
along with
I
that.
was,
So Russ is
I was
Russ.
surprised too.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Russ is Russ, and he's going to be Russ. But are there any surprises in the NBA that any teams that look like they're up and coming, and it's kind of surprising you a little bit?
So I'm not really surprised by Charlotte. Um, their record isn't, what it could be yet. But it's two teams that I've
They're
been having
young.
my eye on. It's Charlotte and New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah,
Um, it would be interesting to see how both of those teams, how their
yeah,
trajectory
they're both very
goes.
young. The Pelicans are
Very young.
poorly coached. They got a lot of talent there. I don't
Yeah.
think that Stan Van Gundy is the answer, and he's got that reputation, but I don't think he's the answer. I look at when you talk
Mm-mm.
about Charlotte and New Orleans up and coming, they have the ability. They have a lot of great young players. I like the way Phoenix is playing.
Me
Devin
too.
Booker, Chris Paul has really impressed me this year. He's taken that team and he's a leader. He's also shooting the
Hmm.
ball well, but the team that really stands out for me this year in Memphis also. Um,
Yes,
John
yes.
Morant,
John
John
Morant is
Morant,
just.
what a beast! John Morant to me is the best young player in the NBA.
I think so.
That guy is unbelievable. Those
I
two teams,
second that.
Memphis and Phoenix,
Hmm.
are playing well,
Yeah,
along with
Phoenix.
what you're saying.
And with Phoenix, I think towards the second half of the year, I think they're gonna make the playoffs. They're
I
gonna
hope so.
really, they're gonna really start doing much better towards the second half of the season. You can see it right now. You can
Yeah.
see their ball movement is great, and those young players, they're believing in what Chris Paul brought to the
Yeah,
team, and
and Williams is a good coach. Lonnie
yeah,
Williams is a
Williams is
good
a good
coach.
coach. You have Booker. I mean, you
Yeah.
know what he can do,
Booker's a,
with the
he won the
ball.
game last night. I don't know if you
Yeah,
saw the game last night. They were down by
yeah,
one.
buzzer
He
beater.
makes the winning shot, and they're playing well. Anyways, we're going to talk a lot of NBA throughout the year. We're a third of the way through the season.
Right.
It's a lot of fun. I watch a lot of games, as you know. Being the owner of FanWagon, you probably get a lot of action on NBA games. Like last night, there was 10 games.
Hmm.
One was canceled because of COVID issues, but there
Right.
was 10 games on the schedule. I think tonight there's 4 or 5, a couple of great games. What type of activity are you seeing at FanWagon, and tell us what type of fan that comes through there that bets on NBA with your site, with your app?
So we're actually seeing, and I wasn't surprised, but most of the activity, people that are making picks and bets, are on the larger market teams. LA
Yeah,
Lakers, Boston. We're not seeing Milwaukee. That was actually surprising. So we're seeing a lot of casual people who are watching the games on TV
yeah,
that are on primetime TV coming to the app.
yeah,
Now, what we want to do, ideally, is get people to be interested in games that may not necessarily show on TV that night.
yeah.
And so we're going to start doing a couple contests and things like that, because for us, it helps us if the fan, even though we're targeting casual fans, but if the fan, the more they know about basketball or the NBA, the more they know about even the small market teams like Phoenix and these other teams, the more that they're gonna, watch.
Yeah.
When they start realizing that these other games are very exciting. Now
Oh, NBA is an exciting place. I saw a couple good games last night. I mean, they do show
right,
a lot of good. To your advantage at FanWagon, they show a lot of games on TV nowadays. You get
they
NBA
do
TV, and if you get the league pass, you can get every game.
everything.
The
Yeah,
big
you can
fan,
watch everything.
I can't do it because I would sit and watch basketball all day, NBA
Yeah,
all day. But I'll watch the TNT games tonight are two good games.
yeah, yeah.
Very enjoyable. Starting with Clippers in Brooklyn. The 4:30
Yep.
game, but it's great to have an app like yours out there.
Right,
FanWagon, that people can go in bed and have friendly bets, and it's not going to break a lot of their banks. It's just fun to bet on the games.
right.
And you're right, when you have there's something about watching TV games, and that's what's so much different than the NFL. You can play NBA every night, 7 days a
Daily.
week. There's at least 3 or 4 games. So
Right, daily.
continued success with the NBA. It's a fun year so far. We're a third into it. A lot of good teams. You know, a lot of teams are on that fringe that are trying to get in there. But as viewers, please check out Dexter's Fan Wagon app. They got a lot of fun stuff there. You can bet NBA games and a lot of things. You can have fun betting against your friends as they make it kind of competitive, like a FanDuel type of thing. So continue to check out his app, and also continue to watch our shows over here at WWDBTV, Let's Talk NBA, and all our other sports shows. Continue to like us. Watch us on YouTube. Watch us on Roku TV. We're on Roku every week now. We're adding more social media sites because our viewership grows. So please continue to watch us. Continue to watch this NBA show. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of good knowledge about it, and we'll continue to talk about trends in the NBA, injuries, updates, trades. And I want to thank you, Dexter Van Wagen, for coming on the show. Thank you for sitting in for my good friend Jack, my co-host. I miss him, but he's out doing other things. But it's been great having you in, and what a benefit to have you on our show. And good luck and God bless with your team over there at Fan Wagon. We look for more from you, and we'll have you on again. Thanks again. We appreciate you. Our pleasure. We'll see you soon. Have a good time. Continue to watch the NBA. Fans, viewers, continue to watch us. Thanks again. Please continue to like our show, view it. Join us here at WWDBTV. It's a great crew led by Mr. John Stiles, producer deluxe. And please comment on these shows. Thanks for watching. And again, thanks, Dexter.
Thank you.
Goodbye for now.